Yo, Jay here. Welcome to the Fit 2 series. On this episode, we'll be speaking with an optometrist, an author, an avid runner, a political activist, a no-nonsense woman, coming to share her story on what it means to be fit to survive. Please welcome Dr. Ebbie Jackson. Welcome, Dr. Jackson.
Thank you, Jay, and it's good to be here. And hello to the Bahamas and the world.
Oh, good to have you here, Jackson. Good to have you here. Oh, you seem fatigued, man. How much miles you did this morning?
Nothing, Jay, but yesterday I did 20 miles, and my Lord, that was rugged.
20 miles? That was your rest
20
day?
miles. No, today's my rest day.
All right. So since we're talking about mileage and fitness, why don't you tell the audience about your fitness journey?
Okay, I've always been into fitness. At one point, I was a fitness instructor. Fitness has always been a part of my life. But 10 years ago, I decided to move outdoor. I got tired of being indoor in the gyms, and I decided to move outdoor and started running. Only 3 to 5 miles, though, just to stay fit. And I saw my brother out here one day while I was running, and he said to me, "Why don't you come and join us? Because we do long distance running." And I'm like, "What?" He said, "Yeah, we train for marathons." I said, "You got to be crazy." Well, the following
I
week,
believe that's your exact words.
I came out and I started with them, and I did my first 5 miles. I was like, okay. And the second time I did 7 miles and with B.A. Tanner, you know, and at that point, I never used to run with water or anything. And when we got out there, he saw me like panting and ready to collapse, and he said, "What happened to your water?" And I'm like, "Water?" He said, "Let me tell you something. Your body is like a car engine. If you don't sustain it with nourishment, then it won't work." And from after that, I started running, went up to 9 miles, and I kept going, and I've been running ever since.
Ever since. So how many marathons you have underneath your belt now?
I have about 18 full marathons, and about 15 half marathons.
Wow. And you train for these things, so that's
Yes.
extra mileage on top of that.
Oh yeah, I've run maybe close, I'm sure over 200,000 miles in the past 10 years.
Jeez. But they trade in cars after they reach a certain
I
mileage.
know, but no,
Jackson, so-
you don't trade in this body.
No. Oh, so if I wanted to get into running, more particular running marathons, half marathons, what would you tell me? How would you advise me to go about this?
I tell people, it's a mindset, because when I first started running, I came out here on the sand, and I could not run from this fence to the wall. But it's take one day at a
60
time.
meters, okay.
You add, you just keep adding. So I just kept adding, and over time, go from one lamp pole to the next, 2 lamp poles, and then a mile, and you just keep going, and before you know it, you're running. When people told me they used to run marathons, I used to say, "You all got to be crazy." 26.2 miles. But
It's important to remember the point too.
yes, oh yes, you can't get that medal without that point 2 attached to it. But, I tell them, just take one day at a time and just build on each day. And once you do that, you'll be shocked to know how much you could accomplish.
Right? Get your mind right, focus,
Oh,
be in
yeah.
tune with your body, because sometimes you realize what works for one person doesn't work for the
Yes,
next. Some people
yes.
need more hydration, some people need more nutrition, people need different type of tennis. Sometimes we like the fast, the flashy tennis over the ones that benefit you most from the pounding on the pavement.
Well, one thing I learned from running, yes, about your body, the type of shoes, because yes, for me too, I used to buy the nice looking shoes, tennis shoes. However, once I started running, and right away they said to me, "Listen, make sure," before that, Jay, when I started running and I used to do 3 miles, I used to have problems with my knees. And
3 miles.
yes, it used to be so painful. I said, "Lord, I can't do this thing. I may have to give it up." And I met someone and they told me, listen, your shoes, you have to make sure you're running with proper tennis shoes. So that was the first thing I invested in. And now that's where most of my money goes, buying the proper tennis shoes,
Yes.
because that is key if you want to do long distance running.
Spike Lee said it's got to be the shoes. It's got to be the shoes.
Yeah.
So like I went through numerous shoes just trying to figure it out. Lightweight, heavyweight, this brand, that brand. And also what I found very important, I don't know if you can test as well, socks. The type of socks are important as well.
Clothing and all, Jay.
Yes.
Can you imagine? Even the clothing.
Yes, yes, yes.
I was used to running with cotton. That's all I knew. And then I realized, no. And you know, when you go to the marathon expos and they show you these different type clothing and you look at the price and you think, how could you buy these things? But it does work.
Yeah.
It does work.
It's so expensive. We put all the money into the car buying, replacing the tires,
Yeah.
but we want to buy $40 shoes to take and
Yeah.
to help this body maintain itself.
Oh no, it's an expensive journey. Marathon running is an expensive
Yes.
journey.
Yes, it takes a toll on the pocket, the mind, and the
Yes,
body.
yes.
Yes, yes. Jackson, tell us about what it means to be fit to survive. I have here a copy of your book, The Ebbie Jackson Story, A Marathon Runner's Triumph Over Cancer. Can you tell us about some of the things that you spoke about in this book?
You know, cancer has been around in my family, breast cancer in particular, for a very long time. My mom succumbed to breast cancer almost 28 years now. And you know, after she passed, we had like a lull in the family, okay? Nobody was diagnosed as far as we knew. Somehow my sister and I, we would make sure to do our checks to ensure that we were okay. So I was consistent with my health checks, knowing my family history. And so I felt and thought I was okay. And then 20 years later, it was my time. And you know, I didn't have a lump as such that, you know, I could feel and to say, well, yes, I could feel changes happening with me. When I started running, the 3 months before I was diagnosed, during my running, I just felt a bearing down with my body. And I just thought it was strange. And now I'm training for my first full marathon. So after a while, the months before the race, I said, you know what? Let me go to my doctor to check and see if I could run this marathon because it feels like my womb is dropping down. And I went and she checked and she said, yes, I think that's what's happening. You may have to have a hysterectomy. And I was like, what? So I said, listen, let's follow this up. So I did the x-ray. The radiologist said, no, that's not what's happening with you. Said, you're fine. And I asked her, I said, well, you think I'd be able to run? She said, yes, if you've been training, go ahead. But you know, 2 weeks later after that, and this would have been the second week in January, 2010, I had trouble raising my right hand. And it was just painful. So in my mind, I'm praying and hoping this is inflammation, but knowing my family history, I said, oh, I have to pursue this. And 2 weeks later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Wow.
And that started the journey.
In the book, you spoke about family and your family photos. Tell me how important family was during this time for you.
Jay, as I said, my mom went through it 20 years before I was diagnosed. So we had to be there for her. And at that point in time, I was still in university, my sister and I. We were at the same university, but I finished 6 months before she did. So when I finished, at that point, that was my mother's last 6 months of her life, pretty much. She made it to my graduation, came back down to Florida to continue her treatment, and then the doctor said there was nothing else they could have done. So she was living with me the last 6 months of her life before she came home to Nassau. And just taking her back and forth to the doctors and seeing what she was going through. Family is so important. And then 20 years later for me, Without my family support, I don't know where I would have been at this point. So family support is huge when people are diagnosed with a life-threatening disease or any kind of illness.
Yes, yes. So you were fortunate to have that family support. Um, are there any support groups out there for those who may have been diagnosed with this disease so they can reach out to?
Jay, there are three main groups here in the Bahamas that I support because I know the group is mainly about cancer, supporting women with cancer, not financial. You know what disturbs me when October comes around and it's breast cancer month, everybody's having something and attaching breast cancer to it to raise funding. They give a little donation to the cause and we don't know what happened to the rest. And then secondly, also, you know, groups are popping up everywhere, but no financial accountability and auditing. So monies are being collected, being used, but we're not seeing where the money is going to help the lives of so many persons who are diagnosed. But the Cancer Society of the Bahamas, the Genie Cancer Support Group, and the Sister Breast Cancer Group, there are three groups that are really helping and impacting the lives of women who are dealing with the disease.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, awesome. Jackson, now I've been told that you are a musician. Say the woman can play numerous instruments. Say she cannot sing, but she can play many instruments. What all instruments can you play?
My voice was probably my first instrument, you know.
That's just me hating because I can't sing.
I
Jackson, you
know.
know how I go. You know.
I know. In fact, though, I come from a musical family. Okay, all our lives we sang as a family. We all had to go to music school, so everyone in my family could play a musical instrument. Okay, I grew up playing the piano, so the piano is my first love. And then I always wanted to play the saxophone. I just loved the sound of the saxophone. So it wasn't until later in life that I learned how to play the saxophone. So they are my two main musical instruments that I play.
Okay. I also heard that your favorite exercise is a burpee. Is that true? No.
This Jay is, oh my goodness.
That's what I heard, Jackson.
You know, Jay has now introduced the Ebbie Jackson burpees to his group.
So you gotta coin it. You gotta
And burpees are just, oh my goodness. Burpees are worse than running a marathon. You know, you really have to train to do burpees. But I can't say they're my favorite. No, my favorite exercise with J Fitness is frogs.
Oh, you like to get the arms together. Okay,
yes,
get it tight.
Frogs. Yeah, man, you know, you want to.
Yeah, I know the
Oh,
time.
that's important.
So you're not holding it right now. That's
no,
not for you.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I have some haters because of this, but I'm grateful and thankful.
Jackson, what you doing? Oh man, tell us something. Tell me and audience something else that many people do not know about you.
I do a lot of handwork. I crochet. My mom, you know, growing up, because I was the oldest girl with 4 boys and 1 sister who was the last, I had to learn to do everything in the house. So I tell people I was cooking from I was 7, 8 years old, washing, cleaning house, things like that. But I love to do handwork. I crochet, I knit, things like that. And I do it for people. I make a lot of little girls or babies' dresses, and I just give it away as a gift if somebody's having a baby or something. So you need to let me know what you and Kim are having. Let me crochet something.
You said things for girls. We're having 2 boys, so I don't know if
we can do some for boys too.
I know it's 2020, but that's not, you know.
We can do some for boys. That's no problem. But
Okay.
yeah.
Nah, you know, I still a little old school, so only pink they can wear is during the month of October. So if you could switch up the colors for me, I'll appreciate that.
No problem.
Jackson, I still have this book in my hand. What made you write this book? What made you say, you know what, I'm going to put my thoughts, my experience, what I'm going through on paper and allow people to experience this?
Dr. Miles Monroe, one time I was listening to him. I was at home watching him on TV, and I'll never forget, this resonated in my mind. He said, you know, Bahamians need to learn to write. Most of our stories go to the grave, you know, which is true. And so I said, right, because believe me, I've done so many different things in my life. but writing is not my thing. But, it just sparked a thought in my head and mind to write. But I was like, I don't have nothing to write about. I have a dull, boring life.
I
I
know the
know,
feeling. I know the feeling.
I'm not out there in public like that, so I have nothing to write about. Anyhow, so the thought just always resonated in my mind after that. But I had no interest in writing because I don't have nothing to write about. Well, the Lord gave me a story, breast cancer. I did not want that
There you
kind
go.
of I did not want that kind of journey, but that's the journey he gave me to write about. But I still was not interested in writing the story. You know what happened? And boy, God is amazing. After I was diagnosed and coming home throughout the process, this lady came to the Bahamas to visit. Her and a friend met them for the first time. They came to my church and they were part of our ladies group. And so she and I became, somehow we just connected. And she knew I was going through the process. So about a year later, she came back to visit. They enjoyed the first time in the Bahamas. They came back a year later. And when she heard what was happening with me, she said, you know something, you need to write your story. And I'm like, what? Write the story? So she said, yes, you need to write your story. Fine. I didn't really, I'm trying to deal with what I was dealing with. A year later, 2 years later, after I finished my journey, completing most of my surgeries and treatment, she called me and she said, listen, I am going to a writers' conference. Say, why don't you come along? And I was like, okay, let me go to just get information on how you write, what you do, and that sort of thing.
It'll be fun. Okay.
Yeah, weekend in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I don't even know where that is. Little white town somewhere. So I went, met with her that weekend. We went to the conference. Do you believe the first session that I went to, the lady who was leading the session said, now, we don't need no more stories about breast cancer. I think we've had enough for them. Too many people have written. So I said, well, that's me for the weekend,
The Lord already spoke. You asked for a sign. Here's the sign. Yeah.
That's it. Well, went to this conference, completed the conference, the last session of the conference. It was an open meeting with the the leader and his wife, who was leading the writers' conference that weekend. In this huge auditorium, everybody gathered. So after he spoke, they said, any questions or any comments? And my friend nudging me said, listen, put your hand up and tell your story. And I was like, what?
When says you were afraid to speak?
She and I are the only two black people in this huge auditorium.
When says you were afraid to speak?
No, child, not in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I needed to come back home safely. So she did it about 3 times. So I sheepishly put my hand up there. You know, Jay, right? I sheepishly, and they said, get up and speak. I started telling my story. After about a minute, all I heard in that auditorium was, and I spoke maybe 2 minutes and I sat down. Well, when the session ended, the conference leader, he came straight toward me. He said, listen, you have a story to tell.
Yes.
He said, go back home to the Bahamas, write your story. He said, my wife and I will help you. He gave me his card. And the rest was history. I could not believe it because it was the easiest thing I have ever had to do. And while I was going through treatment, because I was on my back for weeks, okay, I was just writing. I was just journaling because just to remember, to go back, there was no interest in writing no book. I'm just writing down things that happened. So when I look back, I remember, Lord, this is where you brought me from. So I had notes already, and they said, go home and write your story. And an interesting thing though, when I first collaborated with her, she said, send me what you have. Boy, I thought what I had in my journal, I wrote that out thing. I got my book.
Done.
When I sent that to her, she said, let me tell you something. You need a minimum of 45,000 words to produce a book. But my editor, she came alongside and she just guided me, and the rest became history.
That's good, man. But that goes to show, even though people experience the same storm, they experience it differently. So everyone has a story to share, and there's someone else who experiencing the storm the same way you experience. So there's never enough people telling the same story.
No,
Because
no.
your story is unique to you, and there are parts of your story that are going to be unique to different individuals as well. So
I-
tell your story.
And I tell people, journal. Journaling is a good way of writing in down information so you'll have access
I mean,
to
Jonah,
it.
that's what teenage girls
No,
do.
no, no, no. You write it down for memory purposes, if nothing else. Write down dates, write down things that you may have been feeling or experiencing, because later on you'll be surprised to know how it helped in producing the book.
So where can we find a copy of this book? Dr. Jackson.
The book is located at Palmdale Vision Center, number 35, Mispa's Place. And Mispa was my mother's name, so that place is in honor of her. East Avenue South. That's like between Battery and Tire and Centerville Food Store, that road right through there. So we have them, and they're cost at $20 each.
What is that building? Like, what happens at that building, Dr.
Oh.
Jackson?
That's the next side of my life. Okay, I'm a eye care professional, and I enjoy what I do. And my mom was the one who really inspired me to become an eye doctor, but she didn't live long enough to experience her labor for me to at least fit her with some nice pair of glasses or something. But she was the one who inspired me to become an eye doctor. And vision care for the Bahamas is my thing. I want people to know that we need to be able to see the best. We need to be able to function and do so. I'm all about education, educating people on vision and how to see well, how to function well. And that's what we do there.
Okay, so how can someone get in contact with you besides just driving up? How can they reach out to you for a copy of the book, to get their eyes tested, to get these sexy frames you're talking about, to see the vision? Because this year was Vision 2020.
Jay, believe it or not, when I was studying in school, we were planning for Vision 2020, okay?
That's
And
what 80 years ago, Jackson.
that seemed like so far away. We were like 2020, and then all the anticipation and not realizing that 2020 was the pandemic for Vision 2020. But you can reach me at 325-3585. That's the office number. I give it a home number because that's the emergency number that people use, 327-8921. And then my email is ebbiejaun60@hotmail.com.
You could tell us old school people, Hotmail. Yeah, old school, old school. Thank you, Jackson. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience today?
I always say to people, God has given each of us an opportunity to live this life. And when you hear that word opportunity, that's an opportunity to take the chance to do and develop yourself and be the best that you can be, because that's what He created us for. I tell people I have a busy life. I'm doing many different things. I've traveled the world. I'm involved in groups all over the world. But use each opportunity to make your life count. And that's all I say.
Make your life count. I love it. I love it. I want to sneak in one more thing though, Jackson. What are you up to now? Because I know you say education is important. You say you're involved in many different things. You touch on one or two things. So you got to stop holding out on us, Jackson. This is a transparent series and session. So you got to be open with us. Let us know what's going on with Doc, man.
Jay, I can let you know that privately.
Okay.
Soon.
Soon. Okay, so look out. Look out. Doc on the way.
Look out.
All right.
Transformation.
Transformation. Oh, I like that. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Jackson. It's been very informative. Thank you for sharing your story. Check out Dr. Jackson. Buy the book. Get your eye tested. I mean, I have perfect eyesight because I've been eating my carrots all my life. So it's not a myth, or that's true.
Oh, Jay, that's a myth. I tell people I'll be selling carrots, growing and selling them. That's a myth.
So my parents lied to me to get me to eat carrots.
No, actually, in the back of the eye where the tissues are, carotene, beta-carotene is an important nutrient for certain cells in the back of the eye. Mm-hmm. But that's only for a certain type condition. Okay? So when they hear carrot, beta-carotene, they think carrots, must eat carrots. But I tell patients you could eat it all day. That's not going to solve the problem. Okay? And support Breast Cancer Month. That's the main reason why we're here. October's Breast Cancer Month. Women need your help, and women, I say to you, stay on top of your body, your health checks. Don't try to self-diagnose. Listen to your body and be proactive. We got to begin to save lives because too many of our women are dying from the disease.
The challenge to listening to your body, many of us are not in tune with the body, so oftentimes we need quiet time to just hear our body talk. So
Oh, yeah.
we need to get through that. And how can we support Breast Cancer Month?
You can support it, first of all, by giving, donating, helping, because many women don't have insurance to be able to get the type care that may be needed, but just come alongside. Even if it's not financial, persons you know you can help out in terms of supporting them with supplies. You can just call, you can pray, that's the most important thing. And then just be there.
Yeah.
You know, just be there.
Present.
Help wherever you can.
Thank you. You heard that? Support Breast Cancer Month. Be present. Be a helping hand, financially, spiritually, and just being a present in someone's life. Thank you guys for tuning in. Tune in next week for another exciting episode. Jay out.